Hello, everyone, and welcome along to a new episode in a new season of TurfCast podcast with me, Joe Redmond, and are Burnley ready for the upcoming season? A new Premier League season kicks off this weekend as Burnley take on Brighton and Hove Albion at Turf Moor on Saturday at 3 o'clock, but with no away kit. Only one signing coming in, a decent acquisition in fairness in Nathan Collins from Stoke for a reported £12 million, but more needs to be done in the transfer market. Is it the same old story despite new owners? Or are things going to happen over the coming days and weeks? That's the main question. Are Burnley ready for the new season? You're listening or watching the TurfCast podcast. So as I've said, a new season is upon us. We're taking on Brighton and Hove Albion on Saturday. And it already feels like a big game. I'm not going to lie. It already feels like it is a big game. We've got Brighton, and then we've got, I think it's five of the next 6 games or whatever, or the next 5 teams. I can't remember exactly. All finished in the top half last season. Of course, we've got Liverpool away straight after Brighton. Then Leeds at home, which I still feel it can go either way, despite how good Leeds were last season. And then Everton away. We've had some joy there, I suppose. But we could easily, if we lose the Brighton game, be looking at a similar start to last season where we didn't get his first points until that win at home against Crystal Palace, which was, October? So, yeah, I'll be looking ahead to the new season, previewing the new season here on this podcast and Vodcast if you watch it on YouTube. You'll notice that Simon isn't here at the minute. Don't worry. There is quite a few changes to TurfCast this season. We're going to be doing 2 podcasts a week. We're going to lose the watch-along in some weeks, but we're going to gain a new show. We're going to do a post-match review after every single game, pretty much as soon as we can after the game. Of course, if Burnley are at home, it takes me about an hour to get home, usually with traffic. So you're looking at 6:30, 7 for that live stream, or a couple of hours after that live stream if Burnley have been at home. If Burnley have been away and I haven't been able to get on the game, then you're looking at doing it pretty much straight away as soon as full time. If Burnley have been away, for example, and I've got on the game, then maybe it's a Sunday job for the games on Saturday. Obviously, keep your eyes on our socials. You'll see when all the live streams are coming. But Simon hasn't left the show. He's not on it at the minute. But he is going to be on. We're going to do another stream, actually, this weekend before the show. Before the season and before the Brighton game on Saturday. So he will be on that one. I have spoken to him. He is still here. But there are going to be changes in other areas, as I've mentioned. Hopefully, we'll still be able to do the watch-along. Like I said, there's going to be some away games that I can't get to due to, life, basically. So if that is the case, then we will hopefully be doing watch-alongs. And who knows? Some people, obviously, we had a team of people on TurfCast last season that helped us with the watch-alongs. If I'm on the game, but 2 or 3 of them aren't, for example, then there could still be a watch-along. Just keep your eyes peeled, as I said, on our socials, and we'll keep everybody up to date on what we are doing. But for this show, we have invited Alex James onto the show. If you are familiar with the show and have listened and watched in the past, you will be aware of who Alex James is. He is, of course, the Burnley Football Club reporter at Lancs Live. And I've asked him on the show because he did this big preview pull-out, which you could have got for free. If you follow Alex on Twitter, he tweeted about it a few times. I say free, you had to pay for postage, but that was about £2.20. I might have not even been that. And he's done loads of Burnley content on that. So I thought, who better than already a friend of the show and somebody who's done a big, massive preview for the season than Alex. And of course, we all know that Alex can talk and talk well, and he's quite knowledgeable. He's already spoken to Dash. He was at the Cadiz game, or as he has already told me, at the Cadiz game. That just doesn't sound right to me. It just sounds like I'm saying Cardiff very fast. But we're from Burnley, as pronunciation of Spanish names isn't going to be the best. But like I said, I spoke to Alex earlier today. I got the lowdown on everything Burnley ahead of the upcoming season. So let's see and hear, if you're watching or listening, what Alex had to say. Right, so first of all, Alex, thank you for joining us on TurfCast podcast.
Absolute pleasure. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, like I was just saying to you off air then, I've not really done one of these since May. So I was just saying to Alex then off air, like, I've opened the software up that we use and I'm just like, oh, what do I do? I've totally forgotten how to do everything, and the room wasn't well lit, and I'm like, I can't remember how to light the room well anymore either. So It's been a bit of a usual couple of minutes, but yeah, it's good to be going again. And obviously, I'm sure you'll think the same as well, Alex, because you're back doing the games now. You went to the Cadiz game. How did that go? Cadiz? Is it Cadiz or Cadiz?
I think it is Cadiz, isn't it?
That wasn't even an option on my. There you go.
If you're trying to be,
Burnley,
they had a good go at it.
If you're cultured, just pronounce it like Alex.
Stadium. They had a good go announcing it at the stadium like that. So, but yeah, I think if you're Spanish, that's how you pronounce it. But I think Cadiz, for sake of ease, is fine with me. First half, I actually thought Burnley played pretty well. Chris Wood and Mate Vidra back up front, and they sort of reminded us really that, in my eyes at least, they should be the starting two come the start of the season, albeit they didn't take any of the chances they created. But Burnley looked a lot better going forward with those two up front. And then second half, they just didn't get going. They conceded a reasonably poor goal early on, and they never really looked like scoring after that. And then the usual trials of Eric Peters at left midfield, and obviously Josh Brownell starting at right midfield. Then Aaron Lennon comes on, and it just sort of emphasised that this squad needs a bit of help, and Sean Dyche needs a bit of help.
We're going to mention that because I remember seeing a tweet that you put up, which is something that we put up as well at a similar sort of time. Like, the lineup highlighted how threadbare we actually are at the minute. Yeah,
I think when you look at the bench, it does. I think 1 to 11, if Burnley had 1 to 11 fit all season, I don't think there'd be any real danger of relegation. But as we all know, that isn't going to happen. It's just, it won't happen in football. You're going to get people picking up injuries. And in Johan Berg Munson, we've had a player who's picked up more than his fair share of injuries over the last couple of years. So you lose him, or you lose a couple of key players. You lose a Ben Mee or a Dwight McNeil, and all of a sudden you're looking around thinking, have we got enough depth here to cope with that? And that, particularly out wide, obviously, and it's like, it's an issue that everybody's well aware of. I'm well aware of it. You're well aware of it. Every fan is well aware of it. The board and the manager are well aware of it.
Yeah, it's been something that fans, we've been well aware of since before, I think, even Lanks Live existed. Before the podcast existed, it's been going on for years, this right midfield issue, and I have no idea why it's not been sorted out. But yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. It's just something that, the depth is just not there, isn't it? And it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. It's good to see Collins come in, obviously. Bit of depth now at central midfield, because we started last season with a lot of injuries, with Jimmy Dunn and Kevin Long at centre-back against Leicester on the opening day, and it sure didn't it? We got off to a poor start last season.
Yeah, I think was it 2 points from 7 games off the top of my head? And that, you're playing catch-up before you've started there, aren't you? And as sort of links into the point we were making there, we have got Nathan Collins now, who can stand in for, perhaps long term, will be a replacement for James Tarkowski and could stand in for him or Ben Mee if one of them picks up a problem early on. But he's still never played in the Premier League, and he's still only 20. I think it's a good sign, and I think it is an indication of what Burnley need to do more of, which is sign younger, progressive, up-and-coming players who are reasonably ready already, but have the potential to improve further, can improve further under the management of Sean Dyche. We've seen it before, particularly at centre-back. Could be sold on for a massive profit should an offer arrive. That it sounds very easy when we've just summed it up there in 30 seconds, but that has to be the transfer strategy linked in with you. I don't see Wayne Hennessy is a particularly bad signing. I think.
I agree. I think he's a good.
Peacock Farrell was a bit hard done by, I felt, but if they don't deem him ready for the Premier League, then there's no point having him on the bench. We might as well get somebody who they do think is ready enough for the Premier League. And in Wayne Hennessy, you've got someone who's played there for donkey's years. So you still need that element of experience. But there's one thing this squad's not short of, and it's experience, and it's Premier League matches, because we've got however many players between 28 and 33. And not many under 25. No,
everyone seems to be either on the wrong side of 30 or coming up towards the wrong side of 30. Every time I see Burnley put a birthday tweet up, it always begins with "Happy birthday to so and so who is 30 something today." It's always that. It's never who turns 19, who turns 20. But yeah, you've briefly mentioned it there, Aaron Lennon. Or should I start off with a curious case of Aaron Lennon, because it came in originally as a trialist and was named as a trialist. And then it came out that it was Aaron Lennon. And whether or not Burnley have just named him as Aaron Lennon now because everyone knows who it is, or because the fans were back, I'm not sure. But it sounded like at first it was coming in, or the noises from the club was it was coming in just for fitness. But my argument at the time was, if he's coming in for fitness, then he wouldn't be named as a trialist, because I remember when David Jones came back as fitness, either last season or the season before, whenever it was, they were always open and honest about it. They're like, look, David Jones is here. He's coming in as fitness. That's pretty much it. He's just training with us and he might play in a few friendlies. Whereas Aaron Lennon, it was like, he's here as a trialist. And like I said, the news came out, and now it is a case of Dash said something, which I think you put out in Lanks Live this week, which started off as everyone is well aware, I didn't want to let him go in the first place. And that immediately said to me was, right, he's here for a reason then. It looks like he's going to be coming in as an extra body. I think it's fair to say that'll be what he's labelled as. But what's the latest on that? It is looking like he's going to be signing again, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Dyche was non-committal on that when asked directly. But all the signs, as you said, probably in the 2 minutes he talks about Aaron Lennon, where I didn't want to let him go. He's fitting well. We're short in that position. They were all pointing towards, well, there's a deal here to be done. It's someone Dyche knows well. It's someone who fits that mould of experienced Premier League player who can drop in and hit the ground running in a position where Burnley desperately needs somebody. So if you're asking me where my money is, I would say he's going to sign a short-term deal. I don't have that to any sort of concrete level as yet, but it just seems to make sense all round from my point of view, and from Burnley's point of view. But as I said in a piece yesterday, I think it's all well and good, and I'm not particularly against Aaron Lennon re-signing, as you said, as an extra body. And this is nothing against Aaron Lennon either, but Burnley and Sean Dyche surely deserve more than somebody coming in as an extra body. Why aren't we bringing somebody in who can actually affect things or directly compete for a place in the first 11? And I spoke to somebody on Twitter recently, and when was the last time somebody signed who went straight into the first 11?
Yeah, I've had this debate a few times. It's Chris Wood, in it. And when was he brought in? 2017?
He's had 4 seasons, hasn't he? So, yeah.
Even Charlie Taylor. I think Charlie Taylor was signed either just after or just before Chris Wood. I can't remember. But even he came in as originally as backup to Stephen Wood.
Yeah, same with Josh Brownell, didn't it? I mean, he sort of forced his way in through circumstances as much as anything else. And there's nothing sort of directly wrong with that. But to have that competition, and Sean Dyche always likes 2 players for each position, and that direct competition, you look through the squad now, we could all pick Burnley's 11 for every game. And we sometimes do these things with opposition journalists, or who might miss out, who could come in, and you kind of think, well, nobody, because it's going to be the same 11 as it was last time. Only up front, really, has there been any indication that it might sort of chop and change.
Yeah, it makes me laugh that, because sometimes we do things with opposition podcasts, and they always have I'll sometimes go on like a sort of a round table debate thing. And I remember when we played Liverpool last season, they must have done a 15-minute piece on who's going to be playing for Liverpool. And I would have sat there in silence, and they were like, right, Joe, you can, have as long as you want now discussing the Burnley thing. And I literally just said to him, I said, I'll tell you Burnley starting 11 right now, and just named it all off. And they were like, is that going to be the 11? I'm like, 100%. We just don't have enough players. But it's a worry, isn't it? And we're laughing, and it obviously is funny, but it's a worry, isn't it? Because it's been like this for so long. And then it was like this under the old chairman and whatnot, and now it's looking like it's going to be the same again. I'm not one of these who's going to bash Alan Pace. I'm happy to give him time and stuff like that. I don't want to start slagging him off. I think you can't come in and change things overnight, but it is looking like the transfer window is somewhat the same in terms of that. Obviously, I'm happy we brought Collins in, but like you said, Dyche and Burnley deserve more than an extra body. So it's frustrating at the minute, isn't it?
It is, and I'm with you on Alan Pace, and he's been, what is it now, 8 months that he's been here. And you're right, you can't rebuild Rome in a day. And under Mike Garlick, it was £4 million spent on Collins. And I know there's an argument that you can say, well, some of that was recouped from Ben Gibson, and some of it's been recouped by Josh Benson, etc., etc. But it still is a net spend, and it's still more than what we spent over the last X number of windows. And I do think that there's this thing where Collins signed so early in a window that it raised everybody's expectation levels, rightly. But I have to say, it was clear that we needed more than one backup centre half. And then 6 weeks have gone by, and we're now about to start the season, and we're in that situation where the majority of business is done in the last month of the window anyway, particularly with major tournaments, particularly with the Olympics, Copa America, all that sort of stuff, by other clubs that has a knock-on effect. And now we're starting the season, and everybody's like, well, we're in a worse, which Burnley are in a worse position squad wise because Robbie Brady hasn't been replaced. But there is still 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of a window left. It's just the fact that the season started has brought everything into sharp focus. And I'm always one who will try and judge a window at the end of it. But if it ended tomorrow, then it's been a terrible window, really, hasn't it? It's not been any better than any of the previous 4 or 5 windows, which, and I'm writing the same piece that I wrote in January, and I'm writing the same piece that I wrote last window.
It's that as fans, we're having the same conversation we've had since 2017, 2018, should I say. Obviously, it's not enough people coming in and people not being replaced. And it's a similar story, like you say, to last summer, because last summer, Hendrick and the rest of them were let go, Lennon included in that. And then they weren't replaced. And then this summer, Brady and a few others have been let go. And again, they've not been replaced. So the squad is getting thinner and thinner and thinner. But I'm the same as you. 2.5, 3 weeks left, whatever it is, I'll judge it then. Obviously, that's not all the incomings or potential incomings. There's been this roller coaster with Brazilian Arthur Gomez. I probably pronounced that wrong as well. What's the latest on that? Because it all started off, I'm sure everyone knows who's listening, but it all started off yesterday when the European Santos club rep, all verified on Twitter and everything, tweeted, Arthur Gomez is going to Burnley. He's been let go from whatever loan club he was at, and he's on his way to Europe. Burnley Twitter went mad. I was all part of that. I was having loads of fun, to be honest. Sat out on Saturday last night, tweeting all these Brazilian memes. It was loads of fun. And then it's come out today. And then he follows Burnley on Instagram. Forgot about that one. So everyone's like, well, obviously it's happening. He's never heard of us before, I presume. And he's following Burnley on Instagram. And then he unfollows us this morning. And then I think yourself, Chris Borden, and a BBC journalist have all been saying it's looking maybe like a no, or I think Chris Borden tweeted, don't get too excited. So now some people are taking that as maybe they've said don't get too excited as in is rubbish, or maybe don't get too excited as in is not happening. So what is the latest on that? Because he's signing, then he wasn't. And then according to the club Santos club rep now again, he says, well, I've still got the same information as yesterday. So we're all none the wiser at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same as you last night. That was a name I hadn't heard. It was a name, let alone a name I was prepared to put out there, but it was a name that hadn't even cropped up in conversation. It's probably the most unlike Burnley signing I could imagine. In that it's a 23-year-old from Brazil who has spent the last 2 years out on loan at 2 different clubs. Well, hasn't been first choice in either, but it came from somebody, as you say, who seemed like a reliable source on social media, and the club he was on loan at, which I won't even attempt to try and pronounce, then tweeted to say he's left us because there's been a bid from Europe. So something is clearly happening. I just can't see that as a Sean Dyche signing. It would go so against everything we've known and sort of understood of what Sean Dyche is looking for in players and how he goes about approaching transfer business. Whether it's one that ALK have identified using that was going to be my next question. And perhaps they've said to the manager, look, it's £2 million or £1.5 million, whatever it might be. Let's bring him in. If you want to sit him in the 23s for a season, or you want to sit him in the 23s for 6 months and see how he gets on, then let's do that. And maybe there's a bit of, let's see how this scouting system develops, and it gives the manager an opportunity to see what that scouting system throws up. I mean, that's feasible, I suppose.
Yeah, I think, educated guess, I think that's what it is.
But from speaking to people at this end, in terms of people connected with Burnley, it isn't something that anybody seems to be aware of. So I guess we'll wait and see.
But I'm like you. Like I said, I think that's what it is. I think because Brett, South American football expert, you wrote the article on today. He was speaking on TalkSport, forgot his name. Tim Vickery. He said in the article that you put up, saying that it's a similar thing to the Brentford model, bringing in these unproven people who have a lot of promise, but they haven't quite had the success yet. And obviously, it's got Brentford to the Premier League. But that's a similar sort of thing, as you say, to the AI scout that ALK obviously make their money on, or that they're in charge of, or whatever. Or it's their business, should I say? So I think maybe it is something along them lines. Whether or not, like you say, it's maybe people around this end don't know because it is an ALK Alan Pace sort of thing, and they're doing it rather than Dyche and the usual people that do it. But like you say, it will remain to be seen. You mentioned Josh Benson as well. I want to go into Josh Benson because he's obviously left the club and gone to Barnsley for a couple of £1 million. I can't remember again off the top of my head. I was a little disappointed with this one. I'm not going to lie. Do I think he's going to be Premier League quality sitting on our bench? No. Do I think he'll be back in the Premier League in a few years now he's been sold? Yes. He's gone to Barnsley, and I don't know if you've seen the Barnsley game from the other day. There was a clip that Barnsley put out, and Josh Benson picks the ball up at the back of the pitch and just pings like a 40, 50-yard diagonal ball right across the pitch to one of their players, and it starts a move that they score a goal from. He's obviously got the quality. What was the thinking there in letting him go? And also, these big clubs like Liverpool's and United's, when they let a player like that go, they will have a massive sell-on fee, or, which is something I hope we have done, but I don't think we will do, it's sort of like a buyback clause for a certain amount. Is there anything in that? Are Burnley wise enough to have done something like that?
I think I'd be very surprised if there isn't a sell-on fee. In 95% of transfers these days that are cash transfers have a sell-on fee. So I'd be very surprised, given as well that he's 20, I think, 21. It's not like he's 33 and he might not have another sale. So I'd be very surprised if that isn't in there, although Burnley are closely guarded over fees and contract things like that. I'm with you. I don't think he would have broken through into Burnley's central midfield over the next 18 months, 2 years. He's obviously a good player. He's done all right, hasn't he, when he's played, and he's been sort of shifted out wide right a couple of times to almost be like kept an eye on by the manager, and sort of Dyche being able to coach him a little bit through games in the Premier League from the sidelines. Personally, I think it was just a combination of a good fee, not a great fee, but a decent fee. I think it was something like 650,000 rising past the £1 million mark, which for a player who's played half a dozen games is okay, I think, and a desire from the player as well to want to go and play. And he was at Arsenal as a younger player before he came here, so he's got that sort of desire to go and play. And if he's been offered the Championship at a club that potentially are pushing for promotion, then from his point of view, it makes a lot of sense, especially if he's going to go and play every week. Yeah,
I agree with that, to be fair. So if Josh has said he wanted to leave, then I guess there's not really much we could do. But could a loan not have been an option again? Not sure how much you know about that, but I think from a Burnley point of view, that would make perfect sense. A year-long loan, something like that, reassess him when he gets back.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I just think the combination of, and I'm speculating a little bit here, but what player wouldn't want to go and play? The combination of being able to go to and this is, it's a top 6 Championship club of last season. It's not going out and dropping 3 divisions. It's dropping about 10 league places. So the opportunity that he was afforded there on I think it was a 4-year contract as well, a long-term contract. It's too good a move for him probably to turn down if the fee got to a level that Burnley deemed acceptable, which it obviously did. So I can see it from all sides. In an ideal world, would you keep him and sort of hang on to him and hope that he makes the grade at Burnley in 2 or 3 years? Then yeah, I guess you would. But we've been saying before that Sean Dyche doesn't change the team too often, and you have to have something about you like a Dwight McNeil to really press and push and get through as a young player ahead of people who've got 100, 200, 300 Premier League games. So I think probably best move all round. Yeah,
fair enough. Any more potential incomings then? I know we've been talking about transfers a lot, but it's that time of year. Ryan Christie, that's come back up again in the last couple of days. He was linked a few weeks ago, about a month ago, wasn't he? That's all gone quiet. Now, I don't know whether it's just the time of year, as I've said. So, as you know, you've got to fill pages, you've got to fill website space or whatever. Don't know if it's just people putting one and one together and getting 3, or is there anything in that one?
Not as far as I'm aware. It was a name, and it's a name that's been doing the rounds for probably 18 months. Actually, it seems to have been pre-pandemic Ryan Christie to me. I think that's a reasonable shout. I can see the logic behind it, and whether it's just people putting 2 and 2 together and thinking, oh yeah, he seems a bit like a Burnley player. But the couple of people I've spoken to about him, admittedly not today, but previously, there hasn't been that interest in him from Burnley. Whether that changes over the next 2 weeks, I don't know. I think, speaking of transfers, obviously Burnley were very keen on Mark Albrighton. I think there's optimism that that was a deal that could get done, and then obviously it didn't. This Maxwell Cornet one still going along in the background, where again there's an interest there, but there's a couple of other clubs interested. There's the usual stumbling block of where would he fit into Burnley's wage structure, and what sort of price tag would be needed to get him out of Lyon. And I don't think Burnley are willing to go sort of 15 million when that's Burnley's club record. And as Dyche said probably 100 times, even with Alan Payson and even with a bit more money, it isn't a club that can spend 15 million and not get it 100% absolutely right. Which is why I tend to see Burnley going for like your Chris Woods and your Josh Brownhills, who they've been able to get a really good understanding of and know that'll adapt to the English game. And they've got a database of 200 games. They're able to speak to people who might have coached them at under 15 level, which they can't quite do with a Cornet. So if they're going to get him, and there is interest in him, and they do want him, then it's got to be at a price that they feel like, that's going to 100% work for us. Or if it doesn't, we can write that off. They don't want another Ben Gibson situation, essentially.
Yeah, I think the Ben Gibson situation is sort of like scorned Dyche, hasn't it? I think that not working out has made him a little bit reluctant, as you say, to want to spend that sort of money. But it is good to see that Burnley are obviously interested in Maxwell Cornet, because obviously it's been going around for ages now. I wasn't sure whether or not it was just agent talk again, which we seem to be the victim of quite a lot, I feel. Ever since the Paul Lambert managerial situation around 10 years ago, I've always been a little bit scorned again by that. Anybody else? Is there any? Because it went quiet for a bit, didn't it? But it's the rumours have started again now, whether that's the time of year or not, or because Burnley are working harder behind the scenes. I think that's pretty much it, isn't it, at the minute, with the terms of incomings?
That's it in terms of concrete names I can give you, yeah. I mean, as we've been over time and again, they need to bring in 1-2 wingers. And I would be stunned if we were stood here on September the 1st and the only arrival between now and then had been Aaron Lennon. I don't think they'll let that happen. I think there's more of a desire and more joined up thinking now, and a little bit more in the pot to enable Dyche to go and get at least one more on top of that, if not more. But as ever, time will tell. And as I said to Dyche on Saturday, identifying the players is the easy bit. We could probably sit there and identify 10 players that Burnley should go and get. So then a question of what money do they want? Do they actually want to come to Burnley? Do they look at Burnley and think, that's where I want to be? Does an attack-minded, right-sided player think that's the best place for me, when Burnley have probably had centre midfielders playing out there as often as not in the last 2 years? So all those things go into the pot, and then it's price, and then it's wages, and before you know it, that list that we might have had 15 names on is suddenly recedes to 2 or 3. Yeah,
well, the perfect example of that is obviously Maitland-Niles, because according to reports, Burnley were interested in him, but he's not interested in coming to Burnley.
I think he wants to play central midfield as well. From what? Oh, sorry, you are talking about Lookman there, are you?
Oh, no, as far as it's who is it at Leipzig then? Is it Lookman? Sorry, I've got them mixed up. I was talking about Maitland-Niles, but the last I heard about Maitland-Niles was that he didn't fancy coming to Burnley. I think it was a geographical thing, that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the other factor, isn't it? And it's not just sometimes it's not just the player, is it? It's the family, it's the other half, and all of those things that come into play. But at the end of the day, Burnley's not, it's not quite the middle of nowhere. It's still.
Well, that's it. Like, Manchester's nice. That's not far away. Burnley players live in Manchester and drive up. Yeah, or live in Cheshire. Cheshire's lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't. You can all live in what's it called? Wilmslaw. There you go. Yeah. Lookman and Maitland-Niles, if you're listening. Wilmslaw's lovely. The season starts on Saturday, though. And I have your big pre-season pull-out piece. This was free. It's not available anymore, though, is it? Unfortunately, Alex.
I will have to now go and double check, but there was plenty of opportunity to order one if you haven't.
I think you put a tweet out pretty much every day. I saw it quite a lot. I got myself one. It was free. All you have to do is pay for postage. So when I saw you tweet this out, I thought, brilliant. He's done a lot of words on the pre-season. He'd be perfect to talk about the upcoming season. But one thing I do want to talk about, that's the wrong page, is your piece on Clarets. Here we go. The headline is, Clarets can breathe easier by laying firmer foundations through solid start. And the season starts on Saturday. We are recording this on Monday. So what? 5 days. And I am already looking at that Brighton game. We haven't even kicked a ball. And I'm looking at that Brighton game and thinking, this is big. And that's pretty bad, isn't it? Because I'm looking at that Brighton game now and thinking this is big. Because our fixtures for the start of the season are Brighton, Liverpool away. Sorry, Brighton at home, Liverpool away, Leeds at home, Everton away. And then in between the Leeds and Everton, obviously, we've got an international break. And then Arsenal at home. So there's some tough games there. So the reason why I'm thinking why the Brighton game is so big is because we've got some tough games coming up after it. And if you look at last season, we had, as you said earlier, 2 points out of the first 7 games. The first game that we won was in October against Crystal Palace. We need to get off to a better start. The last time that we got off to a good start was when we finished 7th. That just shows what a good start can do. But yeah, as I was saying then, I'm looking at that Brighton game and thinking, this is big. But that's weird considering it's the first game of the season. But at the same time, I'm standing by it. I think it's spot on. It's a big game, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm with you there because, as you just said then, the next 6 are against teams that finished in the top half last season. And then it's Norwich and then it's Man City away. And we all know what happens there. So you've suddenly got the opening 9 games where you're looking at Brighton and Norwich as games that you need 6 points from. And it just sets the tone a little bit as well, doesn't it? For everybody, for supporters, manager, players. And Dyche spoke a lot about it after that win at Chelsea in the European season, that it just sort of raised everybody's belief. And I know it's different when you play in the champions away and you get 3 points as opposed to Brighton at home, but it raises everybody and it's 3 points.
Just sets the tone, like you say.
3 points closer to 40 before you've started almost. And it gives you a bit more belief. And then if you are 3 points from 3 games come that international break, you've got 2 weeks to sort of reset. The window will have shut. Any business that's been done late, you've got time to bed these people in, and then you can go again for the next block before the next October international window. So I'm with you. I think lose that first game and continue to struggle in the window, and then suffer against Liverpool and Leeds or run into tricky fixtures, and things can start to look really bad really quickly. But win it, sign a player, and suddenly the mood changes again. And, if we get the manager's contract resolved, that's the big one for me. If the manager's contract is resolved, a lot of things can fall into place because you breathe a little sigh of relief that, well, he must be happy with the new ownership because he wouldn't have signed a contract if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe someone like a Ben Mee or whoever it is who's out of contract next year thinks, Dyche is staying, I'll sign on for another 2 years now. And it can just knock a few dominoes down. So the sooner that's done, the better for me. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that Brighton game, it needs a big W next to it in the scorebook. Yeah,
definitely. I'm already nervous for it, and the season hasn't even started. But I did want to talk to you about them 2 contract situations. You mentioned Ben Mee, that wasn't one of them. We'll start off with Dyche, though, because you have mentioned it. I was told that the contract, you'll know more than me, that the contract was agreed. It just wasn't. Basically, they needed to dot the I's and cross the T's. So they'd agreed the money package or whatever. They'd agreed up terms. That's what I'm saying. They'd agreed terms. They just needed him to basically put pen to paper and to finalise a few details. But that was about 6 weeks ago now, maybe even 2 months ago. And it just hasn't been finalised, or it hasn't been announced, as some people keep telling me. Some people keep telling me it is all done. They just haven't announced it. And I don't believe that for a second. I feel that with the way that the transfer window's gone, the club could have done with some good PR by sticking that announcement out if that was the case. So where are we at with the Sean Dyche contract at the minute?
Yeah, going back to what you were saying sort of 6 weeks ago, when a couple of national journalists, or certainly one, put out that it was going to be done and dusted in 48 hours or 72 hours or something like that. It was never that imminent at that time, obviously, as has been borne out. I think there's always been a confidence that from behind the scenes that it will be signed. I don't think it is at the stage that it's just sitting there waiting for the club to put a press release out. As you say, that I feel like that would have been done because they know what's going to happen in every interview Dyche does. He's going to get asked about his contract 4 or 5 times. He's going to have to give the same non-committal answer 4 or 5 times to the likes of me. And we're going to go round and round in circles until it's resolved. So I do think it does get done, and I do think there might be an element. And I asked the manager about it on Saturday, an element of him waiting to see what happens and how things go. And obviously, there's been a fair bit of change over the last 12 months at the club, behind the scenes, and different people moving on and what have you, and as to how things shape up under ALK, and perhaps how things go under the window before he goes, yeah, okay, I'm happy enough with with the way things are looking and the plan we've got to go forward. That isn't what he said. He didn't say anything when I asked him. But I do think there might be an element of that, but I still think he signs. And I think when you're Sean Dyche, you can let his contract run out, but unless he's prepared to sort of sit and wait for a job and leave at the end of his contract, he's gonna have to sit and wait for a job. And I don't know where that next job for him necessarily is at the moment. Certainly in the Premier League. Now Palace have appointed somebody. I don't know. My view is still that he signs, and I still think everything I'm hearing is pointing towards he will sign. But it hasn't been. I don't think it's at the stage where everything's done and dusted, and we're just waiting to put the tweet out.
Yeah,
don't think it's quite there yet.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think it is a case of he's just waiting to see whether he's backed or whatever like that, or to see. Sorry, go on.
I was just going
to say, just sort of like same sort of thing as you. I just think he's waiting to see whether or not he's backed in the market, and whether or not to see if him and ALK are on the same page before he fully commits. But it sounds like they have agreed the actual terms. He just now wants to see what life under ALK is like.
I'm hoping to have an update this week on it, so keep your eyes peeled.
There you go. I was going to say you heard it here first, but you had a teaser here first, everybody. You didn't actually hear it here first. The next one is, of course, the James Tarkowski one. That's the main one at the moment. Obviously, his contract runs out at the end of this season now, as far as I'm aware. And it's not looking good. The noise on that one has gone pretty much silent. It's looking to me, and again, I don't know anything. It's looking to me, just read between the lines, that Tarky's happy just to let his contract run out, play an extra year here, and then go somewhere for free next season.
Yeah, and it's not one I've checked out in the last couple of weeks, but earlier in the summer, and indeed all of last season, that was the indication I was getting, is that he, as we know, he was ready to sort of leave, and he was looking to make that next step to further his England ambitions as much as anything else. Didn't happen for whatever reason, and we probably don't need to revisit all that now. But I think now he has decided, well, I'll be a free agent in 2022. Burnley have signed Nathan Collins, I think, with half an eye on that happening. I can have maybe a broader pick of clubs, because if he did want to go to a Man United or whoever it might be, he's much more appealing for nothing than he might be for Burnley demanding, even now, Burnley demanding a 25 million for someone in the last year because Burnley can. So I think, as things stand, I think he will go on a free next summer.
One final thing, I'll let you go, because obviously, I can hear your phone buzzing, I can hear your emails buzzing. I hope I've not kept you too long, and your colleagues are desperate for some more work off you. Or maybe Sean Dyche should just sign the new contract and you've just found out. Fingers crossed on that one. But one final thing. Any news on the away kit? I know you don't actually work for the club, so it's probably just people at the club that will know about this. But where is the away kit? I'm desperate for this away kit. Have you heard anything about that?
From what I know, this is a thing that it is sorted and is just ready to be push the button on. I think Burnley are probably the only Premier League club who don't have an away kit.
I think as of this weekend, just gone, I think the last two or whatever got their away kit out and released it. So we are now the last club,
And you would imagine they're going to wear it against Liverpool. I would have thought they did last season.
They can't wear the claret one, can they? Exactly. So you would think so.
I would expect that this week. It might even be out before this podcast. I don't know why it wouldn't be, and I don't know. It's one for the club to answer as to why it hasn't been released already, or why it's been waited to be released. But I can't see why it wouldn't be released before the start of the season.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. I've been told it's white. I don't know if you know anything, but I've been told it's white. Fingers crossed. I like a white kit, so I'll be happy with that one. But fingers crossed to get it out soon. I say that. I haven't even got myself the new home kit yet. I might nip down. Oh, it's 3:30. I won't nip down today. I might nip down tomorrow or another day and get it before the weekend, before we go on the turf. But Alex, like I said, I'm going to let you get off now. You've obviously got a lot to do. There's a lot happening at the club. Was a lot of noise about maybe things happening at the club, should I say. So I'll let you go. But thank you for joining us on TurfCast. And I'm sure you'll be on a few times this season, just like every season that you've been working at Lancs Live so far.
Great stuff. Yeah, nice to chat as always. And yeah, anytime, give us a shout.
So yeah, big shout out to Alex for coming on the show. Always a pleasure to speak to Alex. You could hear his phone and his emails going 10 to the dozen. Hopefully that's the sound of some incomings or maybe a Daesh contract or even a Tarkowski contract. I know we've spoken about it and he says he doesn't think it's going to happen, but you never know. Leicester could basically turn around and say, we ain't going to sign you even when your contract's gone. Fingers crossed, but as we've said, I'm not really sure that that's going to happen. But that's not any inside knowledge. That's just a gut feeling. Same with what Alex has just said. But yeah, big shout out to Alex. Thank you for coming on the show. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of TurfCast as we look ahead to this season, our next season in the Premier League, which, as I said, kicks off this weekend against Brighton. Hopefully we can get 3 points, but it is going to be a tough game. Brighton were a decent side last season. They've added well again. And obviously they have quite a lot of fans in the way that they play under Potter. That's a different debate, but fingers crossed we can get a result because I think we're going to need one looking at the run of fixtures coming up after it. But let me know what you think in the comments below, or if you're listening on your podcast, send it us to TurfCast Podcast on Twitter. Get your predictions in. Let us know what you think the score is going to be as Burnley take on Brighton. But thank you for watching. And as I said, we will be doing another stream with me and Simon before the season starts. So keep your eyes peeled for that.